Cadify is an entertaining device that not only demonstrates a pendulum, but also shows the laws of conservation of momentum and energy, Newton's third law, as well as potential and kinetic energy. Allow us to demonstrate our product.
Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This law of motion means that in every interaction ever, there are two pairs of forces acting on the two interacting objects. This means the size of the forces on the first object is equal to the size of the force on the second object. The direction of the force of the first object is opposite to the direction of the force on the second object. Force always comes in pairs, which are equal and opposite to each other. So let me explain how the law of momentum applies to our Cadify product. The conservation of momentum states that the momentum of a system is constant if no external forces are acting on the system. So when the first ball of our Cadify Cradle collides with the second, the first ball stops, but the momentum is still not lost. Just transfer to the second ball, which is transferred to the third, then the fourth, until it reaches the very last ball. You witness this conservation of momentum as the last ball swings into the air with nearly the same momentum as the first ball. Thus, if two balls are lifted into the air on one end of the device and released, then two balls on the opposite end will swing in response with the same momentum. Our product also demonstrates the law of conservation of energy. This law of energy states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. However, energy can change forms, and our product takes advantage of this, particularly the conversion of potential energy to kinetic energy, and vice versa. Potential energy is energy objects have stored either by virtue of gravity or their elasticity. Kinetic energy is energy objects have stored by being in motion. Allow me to demonstrate how Newton's third law of motion applies to our Cadify Cradle. You see, when one spear at the end of our cradle is lifted and released, as so, it strikes the stationary spears. This strike transmits a force through the stationary spears that pushes the last sphere upwards. Finally, the last sphere swings right back and strikes the nearly stationary spheres, repeating the effect in the opposite directions in an equal force. Every action in the cradle having an equal and opposite reaction reveals how Newton's third law applies to our product functions. When all 5 balls are at rest, each one has 0 potential energy because they cannot move down any further, and 0 kinetic energy because they aren't moving. When the first ball is lifted and out, its kinetic energy remains 0, but its potential energy is greater. This is because gravity can make it fall at any moment. After the ball is released, its potential energy is converted into kinetic energy during its fall because the work gravity does on it. When the ball has then reached its lowest point, its potential energy is now 0, but its kinetic energy is now greater. This is because energy can't be destroyed. The ball's greatest potential energy is equal to its greatest kinetic energy. When ball 1 hits ball 2, it stops immediately. Its kinetic and potential energy go back to 0 again, but the energy must go somewhere, so it goes into ball 2. Ball 1's energy is transferred into ball 2 as potential energy. It compresses under the force of impact. As ball 2 returns to its original shape, it converts its potential energy into kinetic energy again, transferring that energy into ball 3. The ball essentially functions as a spring. This transfer of energy continues down the line until it then reaches ball 5, the last in the line. When it returns to its original shape, it doesn't have another ball to compress. Instead, its kinetic energy pushes on ball 4. So when ball 5 swings out because of the conservation of energy, ball 5 will have the same amount of kinetic energy as ball 1. And so it will swing with the same speed that ball 1 had when it hit. When the energy is transferred, no energy is lost along the way, and due to the conservation of energy, the total amount of energy remains the same throughout the process. Now that you know why our product works, you need to know why a Cadify Cradle would be the next perfect addition to your lovely home that could use some peace and quiet. Well, as soon as the pendulum is pulled back and then collides with the other pendulums, the Cadify Cradle will instantly hypnotize your cat and make it forget everything it was doing. Your cat will find entertainment in the Cadify Cradle for hours as the pendulum swinging back and forth work to create a hypnotizing spell over your cat that will distract it endlessly so that you do not have to deal with the cat bothering you anymore.